Another big tip, especially as younger parents, I've always gifted the flight attendants on my plane a little goodie bag.
Welcome to Mom Meets World, a podcast talking all things motherhood, friendships, and life. We're your hosts, Alaina Brookmeyer
and Peyton Saraiva. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right in.
Hey, y'all.
Hey guys, so welcome back to another episode of Mom Meets World. Today we are talking all things travel, tiny travelers, big adventures, and surviving and thriving on the go. It's a really fun episode where we kind of touch base on most of the things that we have both experienced while traveling with our kids, whether that's on the plane, in the car, or kind of just overall changes of routine. As we all know, we like to get out of our routines and go travel, see the different things. I need to go back home and see my family. So there's definitely a lot of stuff we had touched base on how to survive these big, tough moments with kids in tight spaces. What did you think of the episode?
Yeah, loved it. Like, we skimmed the surface, but I feel like we covered a lot. So let's go ahead and dive into the episode.
Alrighty, girlfriends. So tell me about your week. What's been happening in your life?
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to update everyone on how Father's Day went, because that has gone and passed now. So very successful. I think the highlight for me, just because it was so different, is Ben and I going to that concert that I had mentioned.
Yeah.
So Pierce the Veil, very screamo, but not every single song, all the songs. And I tried so hard to keep my eye out for your parents.
Oh my God, stop.
That will make my life if I find them. But okay, so we get there. Ben and I are driving the truck, and Chloe is home with Nana and Papa. They're looking after her, thank goodness. And so we get there, and we're like, holy shit. There's so many cars in this parking lot. There's a freaking long line, so long. And we're like, that is not the line to get in. And Pierce the Veil, I mean, I guess they're becoming more well known, but they're no Justin Timberlake or anything like that. So we're like, what on earth? So then as we were waiting in line finally, and one of the security women was kind of making everyone move along and stuff like that. So she mentioned to us, she's like, this is a 20,000 people venue. This is a sold out show. There are 20,000 people here right now. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to find your parents, to be honest. I'm like, number one, they probably got there early because they can. And I feel like that's their style maybe. And then they probably got way better seats than we did, because we did not get good seats, but it was fine. It was quite the experience. And people watching at those types of shows, and any show really, is just, it's very fun, very entertaining.
Yes. Well, thanks for keeping an eye out for them. I know that they, I think they got there late because I called them on Father's Day, and I think that they were quite dusty. So I think they went to a couple bars before, had a lot of drinks, and mom and dad were nursing a little hangover, but I think they had a great time.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Good for them, man. Good for them. So that was really fun. Definitely out of my element. It was an outdoor amphitheater setup. So it was toasty. When we got there and got to our seats, it was 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes, it was, but thank goodness, the sun was down. We were chugging water. Ben and I shared a beer. We didn't go crazy. So yeah, it was just a fun experience. And everyone's kind of got their rock and roll going on, and I'm just kind of chilling, but that's my style, going to concerts, unless it's Spice Girls or someone that I'm actually, fangirling over.
What a throwback.
A throwback. I know. So I would freaking love that. So anyways, but that was fun. That was a highlight recently. A nice little date night, something different for Ben and I to do. And yeah, so yeah, tired mama after that, but everything was kind of cruisy then. And then we have an upcoming camping trip coming up in a couple of days to look forward to. So I'll kind of share some more tips and tricks and everything relating to that as we get into today's topic. But you go ahead and fill me in on how your week's been. You're fully pretty much recovered from your never-ending cold, but fill me in on everything else.
Oh my God, so good. So as we speak, we're about to come back to America. So I'm so excited. So I'll give us a little summary of on the weekend. So we have just some really good friends, Sep and Britt, who live up in Sydney, and they come down here all the time. And Seb has a pizza business. So he's taking over the Breakwall food truck for the weekend, doing a little like celeb shift, if you will. So they came down on Wednesday, and so it's the winter solstice. It was Saturday. And so something that we did last year was me and about 40 women all get dressed up in like into the nines, all fancied up.
Yes.
And we do our winter solstice swim. So here we are, full circle a year later, and my friend Britt's here. And it's such a different feeling this year because last year I was still so new to, like, I had some new friendships and I was really like trying to break my way in. But now I've got like my core girls down here. Like I've got Ellie and Lauren, and now Britt's coming along, and then she's bringing her friend Rhea. And then I've got another friend, Rachel, that's coming, and we're all dressing up, meeting at mine, and we're going to go to the beach. And again, it's the coldest day of the year, the shortest day of the year. The sun rises at like 7:30 and it sunsets at like 3:45 or something like crazy. So we all go dive into the ocean, and it's so much fun. And then afterwards we went to the brewery, and we have a DJ on, which is my friend Jacko. And then Sep's got the pizza van going on. And so it's so much fun just to like have all of our people in town and just have a weekend drinking and eating and just, enjoying that. And I adore my friends so much. They're just such good people. So it's been great. I got to pawn Cooper off on them a little bit, so we got to pack. And so that's kind of going to lead us into today's topic. But so we are going on a big whirlwind of a trip. So we're going to driving from Narooma to Sydney, and then we fly from Sydney to LA. And then from LA, we fly to Phoenix, and we'll spend about 5 to 7 days in Arizona. And then we go from Arizona back to Pennsylvania. We'll spend probably like 3 or 4 days there. We'll spend the 4th of July. We'll then spend Chase's birthday out in Pennsylvania. And then from Pennsylvania, we're going to fly to Iceland. So that is going to be insane. So like in 2 weeks from now, yes. We'll be landed in Reykjavik. 3 weeks from now, it sounds like we'll be landing in Reykjavik. And we are going to get ready for my sister-in-law's wedding. So I don't want to jump the gun too much, but world travelers, I guess, is going to be our hat for the next few weeks. And Cooper's going to buckle up because it's going to be a lot. We're so excited for it all to begin. And there's going to be so many hiccups along the way, but I hope it goes smooth. But I'm excited to share with you how this all goes because it's going to be wild.
I know, we're literally going to be along for the ride. I'm excited to be a part of it and a part of your adventure. But I'm also excited to it's going to be a learning experience. It's going to be an adventure. So yes. It's all going to be good stuff. And one for the books, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. Our plan is to really capture our trip on Instagram. I think I'm pretty good here and there. I like updating my stories and keeping my my little highlight reels active and that sort of thing. But for this trip, I'm definitely going to be doing some tips and tricks and kind of trying to capture at least the parenting parts of the travel on the Mom Meets World Instagram as well as mine, and try to document this trip because this is once in a lifetime opportunity to do this. So I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah. And I feel like we'll have more time to be together and share a little bit more about that on our Instagram and obviously when we're together recording. But it also allows us more space, as we've mentioned in the previous episode, that we're going to start going to posting episodes every other week rather than every single week, just for the foreseeable future, just while we're doing our little vacay, our little holiday situation. So I'm excited for that space to allow us to have a little bit more quality time, but also have more time also to be I don't want to say expose ourselves, but be on the other platform, Instagram. And so that's another way to kind of connect with everyone.
Connect, follow along, and see how this journey goes.
That's right. So we'll save all the goodies, all the good tips and advice coming up in just a couple of minutes. But let's go ahead and go into our moment of this week, which is, giving a little shout out to a product that we are currently just genuinely loving. So do you have anything up your sleeve?
Yes, absolutely. So I know Alaina's going to have the big one today, but it's kind of about kids' rooms and products we're loving, and something that I really love. I got these vintage pictures for cars, they're vintage car pictures. They're for Cooper's room. And so my tip or trick is I always go onto Etsy, find the prints. I get them printed off at a nice printing shop. And then I go to IKEA and I get a high quality print frame. And that's how I tend to do my prints in our rooms, as opposed to going and buying the pre-framed, pre-matted ones that are pretty expensive. I think that's a really good tip to be frugal with your spending within the kids' rooms, but also still having the quality and supporting small local artists, which when we go on Etsy, I'm always finding I try to find small business with reputable reviews and making sure that the money goes to them, as opposed to a no shame to Temu or, all those sorts of shops. But I try to really support those local brands. And so we have vintage cars photos. We've got a truck, a little pickup wagon, an old Mustang, all that kind of vibes. And Cooper loves it.
So cute. And I'm all about Etsy. It's so dangerous, but I'm like you. I like supporting smaller businesses, whether they're local or not. It just gives everything a little bit more of a unique vibe to your home and your space, or maybe something you're wearing. So all about the Etsy game. And especially for kids' rooms, it's nice to, investing is good if you have the money and you find something that you actually really like, but it's also we know how often we're going to be changing up their rooms, especially as they get older and have more say in it. So I'm all about it. So yeah, something that I'm currently, you just reorganized Coop's room a little bit, so you got a little refresh, and I'm currently updating Chloe's room to be less of a baby, nursery style, and trying to get rid of the glider. So we're upgrading it to more of a toddler room. So something I'm really excited about, and we haven't gotten it delivered yet, but it's the piece that I'm most excited about. And it's a little tent, play tent castle that's going to fit in the corner of her room next to her bed. And it's a little boho vibes, but still classy and looks like good material. So I'm excited about that. And when I was shopping around, something that was a priority for me is just I know she's going to ask me and ask Ben to go in there with her, right? So it's just I don't want to find something too with the doorway being too narrow or small and being dragging my feet to go in there with her each time, because I want to be excited to go in there and play with her. She's inviting me into her space. So I found this one that we got has a little bit more of a wider opening, so it looks a little bit more inviting. And I ordered also specifically a little butterfly pillow from Etsy too to go in there, and it's pretty significant size, so I'm excited about that too. Just to make it cozy in her own little nook in her room. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll make sure to post some pictures or maybe a video when we get it.
Yay, I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see how she's transitioning into her big room. Are you changing around her quilt and all that sort of stuff as well?
We're keeping the base pretty much. Since we're getting rid of the glider chair, that's a big corner to consume and replace. So that's where the little castle tent goes. And then we're getting a new little bookshelf situation because Ben, apparently, news to me, he hates the fake plant that's in there. So cool, good to know. We're going to get rid of that and put a little bookshelf thing. I'm all about the scalloped edges. So we found one that's dainty in that way. And and another thing we're going to put is a little mirror. It's not full size for us, but it would be considered full size for her because we don't have a lot of lower mirrors in our house for her to be able to see herself and do her little twirl in her dress and dance and perform. So I'm excited for that piece for her too. Oh my God. Yeah, we're keeping all the big furniture where it is minus the glider.
Cute. Oh my God, I can't wait to see. You definitely need to do before and after pictures. Make sure to take pictures of all that, because you're also transitioning out of her baby stage into a big girl stage. And it's not to get sentimental, but make sure to take all those photos before and after and do a little transition reel on it for us. And I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
Good idea. Yay. Well, let's go ahead now that we just gave our little unsponsored shout outs to products. So let's go ahead and take this moment for our sponsors. Hey mamas, let's be real. Between the kids, carpool, and never-ending laundry pile, who has time to deep clean their house? That's where Clean Lemon comes in. They're a Phoenix-based, non-toxic cleaning service that'll make your home sparkle without you lifting a finger. And just for our Mom Meets World listeners, Clean Lemon is offering $50 off of your first deep clean with the code MomMeetsWorld50. Fresh lemony vibes, no stress. Find more info at cleanlemonllc.com. Link is in our show notes. And use code MomMeetsWorld50 when you're booking.
Hi mamas, let's talk prenatals. As a mom, there's nothing more important than giving our little ones the healthiest start. And that starts before they're even born. I've been using NaturalBest, and it's truly a game changer. Created by a naturopath, backed by science, these supplements are designed specifically for preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. Whether you're planning, pregnant, or navigating the postpartum recovery, NaturalBest supports your body and your baby the entire way. because mamas, you deserve the best too. Check them out at naturalbest.com and use the link in our show notes to receive 10% off your first purchase.
Alrighty, so diving into today's heart of the episode, we're talking all things travel tips, things we've maybe learned from in the past. We've gone through over 3 years now with these kiddos, doing the planes, cars, and you name it. So we'll take you through everything that we've learned up to this point. And yeah, I think honestly, Peyton, you're going to be taking the reins on this one because you are truly a pro at this point. And especially a week from now, right? You are going to be having the trip of a lifetime to, take note of. So why don't you go ahead and take the wheel? Let's first peel back the layers and explain how that very first trip went with Cooper back in the day. When was that? How did it go? And how does it compare to now?
Yeah. I think to begin with, falling in love with someone who lives on the East Coast of America, I knew travel was going to be in our future because Chase is from the East Coast. And so we met in Arizona, obviously. So I knew we'd have to kind of travel back and forth as, our family grew. And I remember doing those trips independently and being like, okay, this is 6 hours. Oof, what a laugh now, joking about how my travel is so crazy at the moment. But so yeah, I was very lucky in the beginning. Chase's mom and sister actually flew back to Arizona when Cooper was born. So I didn't have that initial need to get back there. But when he was about 6 months old, we flew back to Pennsylvania. It was around October, November time. And he was probably about 5.5, 6 months at the time when we got there. And he was great. I mean, we flew, from Phoenix to, I think we flew from Phoenix to Chicago and then Chicago to Pennsylvania, where they live. And I just remember everyone was looking at me in the airport. And I was very nervous. I have the baby on the plane. I have the baby on the plane. It seems to be that tip every time I'm going that I'm nervous what people think. And that's one of my big takeaways. And I'll share a little later on about not really caring about what people thought, because I nursed him when we took off and nursed him when we were landing. So that kind of helped with his ears popping. And he was a joy. I just remember we planned everything kind of around his nap times. And so he slept majority of the flight, and then we landed, and he was just a really happy kid at that time. So I didn't have any issues on that flight. I just remember it being very awesome and getting to my mother-in-law's house and being I think I have a broken kid because he was really, really good, but we'll see on the other end. And I kind of feel that's kind of the narrative we keep joking about. I don't know, that one was good, but we'll wait till the next one. What about you? What about
don't
you
want
guys?
To jinx it.
No, not at all.
Yeah. A little bit of a similar experience. So our very first time flying with Chloe was when she was 6 months old. So same as Cooper. And we flew to the East Coast as well because we visited my sister-in-law and her family who lives in, where do they live? Atlanta, the Atlanta area. So that was fun. I remember it going as well as it could have, kind of standard. She cried some and I was nervous up until that point. We prepped as much as we could. I don't remember anything crazy that happened or that we maybe forgot or this and that. It's one of those things where it's just there's so much build up to it, especially that first one. And so it's just a matter of checking that box, hitting that milestone and moving past it because, it's going to be what it's going to be sometimes. And that's kind of life's lesson with kids, honestly. But even before that, so that was her first flight, but first kind of road trip situation was we took her camping. That was just over a 2-hour drive away. So to us, that's a road trip with a 4-month-old. So yeah, she was 4 months old when she did her very first camping trip. I can't remember if we did 1 or 2 nights. I want to say we did 2 nights. And we have a little pop-up camper, which we're actually about to take on our next trip in a couple of days. So yeah, she got through that. That was pretty testy for myself and my OCD and mental health at that point. Mostly regarding around her feeding because I was still trying to breastfeed her, and that was a very intense journey for us. And then also her nap schedule because obviously very much out of our element, but we did have a pack and play in that. So anyways, that seems like a billion years ago at this point, honestly.
I mean, it's crazy to think back now. And then kind of I think pretty early on in Cooper's life, we knew at some point we were going to head back to Australia. And I think that was something that was always in the back of my mind of how are we going to do these flights all the time with Cooper? And Cooper turned 1 year old and we flew down to Narooma for the first time. So we did our big trip. We flew from, it was a nightmare of a trip, if I'm being freaking honest. I think that was one. We flew from Phoenix to Seattle because we had to get Cooper's passport, Seattle to San Francisco to Sydney, and then Sydney to Narooma. And I mean, pretty much everything that could go wrong on a trip went wrong. We got a flat tire, our luggage didn't make it. Um, it was just a trip. It was just everything that probably could have gone wrong pretty much did. We missed multiple flights due to weather and change and blah 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 blah. And we were wearing all these different clothes from people on the trip. I remember going to the grocery store when we got to down to Naruma and like having to like scurry through all the aisles to find things like underwear and shirts and formula and all these different things. But I think for me to have such a bad trip made me realize that we could do anything. And I think that's a takeaway now for the rest of my life with traveling is like with a trip that hard and that unknown with the 1 year olds and everything, like our stroller didn't make it, all these massive things, our car seat, all these things that we needed didn't get there. Right. And so like it was cool to see how resilient we are, but that's where now I pulled out my little list on my phone of all my notes and tips and tricks to share with you guys.
Yes.
And like obviously with our position, we do road trips and we do planes because we live 5 hours from the nearest major airport. Right. So that's kind of where I wanted to start, which is like some of my universal tips. And then I could go through my plane tips, car tips, and then kind of go from there. But in general, snacks are your biggest ally. I mean, I'm serious. Take if Cooper or Alaina or Chloe or Jesse or Rennie or any of the kids listening to this have a favorite snack, put it on the back burner. Don't let them have it for the week leading up. Put it in like their secret special spot. Say the store is running out, and so you have those in your arsenal, sorry, of like ready to have for the plane ride. So you've got them in your thing. Don't give away the big ones too early. Plan out your trip to see like, okay, it's really important that he's quiet during this time. Make sure you have snacks ready to go. I'm like anticipating those sort of things. And this is where you take all health things out the window, grab those fishy crackers, grab the lollipops, grab things that he's like looked at in the shops before and really use those to your advantage. Because at this point, like plane rides are pretty much survival mode for all parents. And I would say people are really understanding on flights and stuff, but I think a really big one is just having those snacks ready to go.
And then do you like hide some of them? Like you don't just reveal all of them at once and then have him choose and then he knows what to expect, right? Like to keep them kind of hidden for last minute like emergency situations of oh he's starting to tear up, you know?
Yeah, so absolutely. So obviously now we're at 3. It's been a year since he's traveled. So like I'm just basing now off our last time going back to America about a year ago now. I had like a Ziploc baggie in his backpack that he could then choose from. And then in my personal bag, I had like my emergency things like the tiny teddies or like the lollipops or like that chocolate bar or those small things that really make a difference. And I wouldn't necessarily saying the word is bribing, right? But like eventually after an 18-hour flight, kids are going to get bored of the snacks that's in their bags. And you need to remember that the flight attendants aren't always going to be around to come and, give new snacks, and like the food on the airplanes aren't necessarily great. And so having that backup plan of snacks in your bag is also a really good last defense. Another big tip, especially as younger parents, I've always gifted the flight attendants on my plane a little goodie bag. And so what we do is I create a little like a thank you bag, right? It's a little, I go to either the dollar store or you can go to whatever. You get these little like bags and you fill them with like a little liquor bottle. You can fill them with a little snacks, candy and lollies. And you can do a little note with it and to say like, thanks for bearing with us. This is a big plane ride for us or whatever. And so gifting the flight attendants around you these things make a huge difference because then one, they pay more attention to the parents. Like I also, every time I fly, when we do this, the flight attendants are always making sure my beer is filled up or I've got my extra wine, or if I need to use the bathroom and Cooper's sleeping, someone's sitting in the chair with him. If Chase, like, because when I flew down here, Chase wasn't with me. And so like that was so massive. Like the flight attendant sat with Cooper while I quickly went and did a pee instead of waking him up. So the people around you, you should really use as an asset. Try to give like a warm smile when you get on the plane with small kids, like acknowledging like, yes, I know I've got a kid. I'm on the same team as you. We're going to do this together. I think that has also been really big, like creating a warmth around yourself and around the people around you. So they immediately don't think, oh my God, there's a 3-year-old next to me. That's also been a really big one for us.
Find a way to connect a little bit just to even break that ice rather than being like, oh gosh, are their kids going to be angels and then my kid's going to like be crying the whole time? Like don't play the comparison game. Like they've been through it or will go through it depending on the age and all that. But I think your tip about doing that little gift, like little somethings, and even if you don't have a physical gift to give people, like even if you just make an effort to communicate with them, like Ben's really good about that. Every time we board the plane and we're literally stepping onto it, he somehow is just like so personable. I mean, he's always personable, but he's just like super personable with whoever's greeting us. And like, he's like, oh yeah, what's your name? And I don't know, he has his way of doing that. So I really admire that about him. And I think that's so smart and like such a good idea on your part to do that, to kind of kickstart a good flight and good like connection with people.
I think it just goes a long way, and like it's genuine. You're not trying to be fake about it, but in the same way, it like actually builds that relationship. And then Cooper feels safer. Like when they come by, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is flight attendant named Sue. Like kind of like try to find that connection point. Um, and that way, like, I know it sounds crazy, but if we are having a meltdown, at least a flight attendant can come over and go, what's wrong? Does he need something? Does he need sparkling water? Like, is his tummy upset or whatever? As opposed
Mm-hmm.
to in the middle of that meltdown, that's the first time you're building the relationship with that flight attendant. That's not the moment where you really want to be doing that, if that makes sense. So that's a big
True
one.
that.
Um, excuse me. I also really think it's important to always pack a change of clothes in the diaper bag on the airplanes. Both of our kids are potty trained. And so I think it's important to remember that, especially on a long flight. I think we're going to stick with the pull ups on the big airplane rides, but having a change of clothes, if they, God forbid, spilt something on their shirts, obviously on the little planes, they give us little cups. They're going to be so excited to have those things, like anticipating one step ahead. That way, okay, they accidentally spill. Oh, well, not the big deal. If I react big feelings, oh my God, how did you do that? Oh my gosh, Cooper, then he's going to react. My way of
Mm-hmm.
communicating with Cooper is like, it's okay. I've got another one in the bag. Let's be careful next time. Do you want to finish your drink and then we'll change you, or do you want to change you now? Cool. All good. Just strip them down. We have a Ziploc baggie in the bag ready to go for any soiled clothes so it doesn't get everything else wet in there. And then his new pants are on. He's good to go. We saved that meltdown. Things are going to happen. Spills. We're going to trip and fall. Again, trying to be one step ahead and like, don't stress yourselves out, but like just those small little things. Grab your fries bag, put it in, you can squish it up teeny tiny. If you have any wet
Mm-hmm.
clothes, put it in there, stick it in the side pocket. Nothing else is going to get wet. Like it's all good. We're going to be fine. You can check it in the washroom when you get there. You just want to minimize the explosions, minimize those big feelings, and remain fun on the plane. Remain like those small things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's just like going into this, you kind of have to roll with the punches and be like, okay, I'm going to be as prepared as possible. But then at some point, you just have to just stay calm when things do happen and work with what you've got. And like, if you have the space, like, I mean, I guess it's not considered overpacking because if you have the space, stuff it in there. Because what I kind of think about is as the trip goes on, like let's say you're packing a bunch of diapers or pull ups, whatever it is, whatever age your kid is, like that's eventually going to free up space, like as you get through the trip. So really pack it in, assuming you're not bringing back much, right? So I think that's really smart to do. And like with the pull up situation, what we've done in the past, now I don't plan or anticipate to do but this with Chloe at this point, but like what we had done in the past is we use nighttime diapers for her on the plane just because it's extra absorbent, and maybe even like size up slightly if she's on the brink. So I think that's another smart little trick regarding that.
Absolutely. A few other things is trying to pack like a small first aid kit. I think it's important to have that in the front little pocket, like a small amount of Panadol, a Band-Aid, and maybe like Neosporin or something small like that, but just in case a fever strikes you on the plane, or we fall and we need a Band-Aid. Sometimes Band-Aids are a magic trick. It's all mental, right? Kids, just like a Band-Aid helps things feel better even if it doesn't. And so having 2 or 3 little Band-Aids with a little bit of like that kid's medication and a thermometer in the bag will save you if you miss your big luggage. Again, once you land the plane, you'll always have access to a CVS or for like a Rite Aid or some sort of shops. But I think it's important just to like think ahead of those small things, because it would be really crappy to be on the airplane. You can't give a kid adult Tylenol, and that's what they said. Like that's what they have on the airplane. So if you can try to fit that in either their backpack and yours, that also helps. I think ease the mind a bit on the plane.
Yeah, definitely. And these are like perfect for the plane because then my head goes to like, what about a really long road trip? But
Yeah.
at that point, depending on where you're going, like, at some point you will come across a store, I would hope. But who knows how long you're going to have there. So it's nice to just pack this stuff in general. And I love that you have your go-to list that you can always refer to, like saved list. And do you do the thing, like, is it on a notes app for you, or how do you save yours?
Yep. So everything I have is in my notes app. To
Mm-hmm.
be fair, I typically have the bag packed with like all of my essentials, like the emergency items, even when I take him to daycare, if that makes sense. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
always in there, but I always refresh because medicine does expire. And so I'm always just double
Yes.
checking that everything is up to date and things. But what I do is I just create a travel list on my phone. and I make sure I go through my note section and I tick off all the things I have, and I never erase them. I just like tick the marks. And so I have it ready to go for the next time. Cause again, we'll fly from, to Iceland and all these different places. And I think there's the difference between flying internationally and flying just like through state to state, because medicines are the same in the same country as you live in. Like you can get a Tylenol, you can get a Panadol, you can get all these different things there. But when I'm flying to Iceland, I don't want to go to an Icelandic pharmacy and try to find an infant's Tylenol and try to read through all that. I'm certain there's going to be translations, but like save yourself that stress of making sure it's all right by just planning ahead. Head to Target before you go. Get this travel size little bottles. People get the ones for your shampoo and conditioner. You can get one small enough if you want to get for kids Tylenol. I personally don't think those bottles are big enough to like downsize anyways, but if that makes you feel more like healthy and happy, do it. Something I was just recently introduced to, which has made a huge change in our life, is the children's Quell's motion sick tablets. Cooper gets really bad car sick. We just drove up last weekend up to the Central Coast, and Cooper threw up a few times, and my friend Lauren called and was like, you need to get these tablets. So I drove right to a chemist. We got them, and immediately he was better. On the way home, he's fine. And so I've really stocked up on those for the trips, and they're really small, compact, and I can break them down into a small little thing. So I'm going to stick that in my bag as well.
Perfect. Yeah, because Cooper so well, and that's consistent for him. That's another note of like, we all know our kids pretty well. We can do our best to predict what's going to be their little touching points and their triggers. So I think that's really key. And you lucked out to like get that tip before, especially such a big trip coming up for yourself. So that'll be good to literally keep in your back pocket.
Yes. Then kind of like pivoting over to road trips. I think it's really like for us, we found it really helpful to try to time road trips out around naps. Look, I understand road trips have such varying, like there's different things, right? But especially when they're little, if you can try to time a nap right when they fall asleep, and you can knock out the first 2 hours of the trip during that first sleep window, and then they wake up, then you feed, that's a lot more realistic than you putting them in the car and then 30 minutes later checking the clock and going, oh shoot, I need to feed. Like especially in those first year or so when they're pretty regime like oriented. But for us, trying to do the big chunk of the trip in the middle of the nap time is pretty great. And so we always laugh going, we need to eat lunch before he goes down, because we don't want to stop the car to run in to get some lunch while he's sleeping, because he wakes up like that. So just like trying to think about those things. It just comes with time, but we have to do it so frequently, if that makes sense, that I've really tried to time those out. And what about you guys? What do you do?
Well, I do want to pick your brain about like how you set up nap in the car for Cooper, because we're going to plan that. Fingers crossed it works for Chloe, because she hasn't napped in the car in so freaking long. And we're hoping to do that for our road trip up to our camping trip in a couple of days. So do you have any tips as far as like, because she's pretty sensitive to light. I don't know if you do anything for Cooper in the car for that. And like, I don't know. I mean, I could tell her like, okay, it's sleepy time. Like it's okay to fall asleep in the car now, and maybe put her shusher sound machine on. Maybe put some like calm down lullaby, like Disney music, but without lyrics. I don't know. What do you think? What do you do?
Yeah, so for us, what we do is we have like one of those window shields on the side that just kind of prevents the sunlight from kind of really going in. But truthfully, like it'll hit like that 11:30, 12 o'clock mark. He kind of goes down about 12:30. I'll kind of start prefacing it like, hey, we're going to, read one more book, or we're going to watch one more episode of the show before we take a nap. And then I go, all right, Cooper, it's time for a nap. And I just like take the blanket and I put it up right next to his head. And I'm like, okay. And we turn our music down and we kind of limit our talking for a few minutes. And then he typically will just like fall right asleep. I mean, he is used to it. We always sleep at home, but like just because the car rides, it's pretty frequent that he has, like when we do those trips, they're 5 hours. He gets kind of bored. And so I always kind of preface it with like, when you wake up, we'll be either there or we'll be closer to getting there. So trying to say like, set the expectations is this take some of the time away and just take a little snoozy. And when you wake up, we'll get there. But I don't have necessarily like a magic trick on that one. He is pretty just good at like putting the blanket by his face and just kind of like dozing off. But the second the car turns off, it's useless.
Perfect. Okay, cool. I mean, even just you talking out loud about it like helps me, because those are things that I don't think about, of like keeping it as close to her regular routine as possible. But obviously she's not going to be in her bed, and she has a bigger like blankie that she has in bed. So maybe I'll bring one of her old, like I was just about to give it away, or like I don't even know what I was going to do with it, but it's in her closet. So maybe I'll break that out and have it like it's her old baby blanket, and it's literally just like super thin cloth and super small, but as long as it can kind of act like a blankie
Yep.
on her while she's in her car seat, that might be nice. So,
Because Cooper likes the comforting
yeah,
feeling of being tucked in or like
yeah,
that. And so I always make sure that like we tuck it in and it feels like that safe, cozy part. And I always go, get
yeah.
cozy in your bed. And like that's what he kind of likes in the car.
Okay, perfect. Yay. I will definitely make note to do that. Perfect. Yeah. So for us, I mean, yeah, like I just said, we haven't done a lot of like road trips with her napping in the car recently. So minus that, I mean, anytime we're in the car, we kind of take turns with music. So that's one thing that is a little tip is like, okay, we have this agreement and this deal of like who's going to listen to music and whose turn it is for however long. And usually on the way somewhere, like if we're just driving around town and doing our daily life, like on the way to somewhere, it's mama or dad's turn, whoever's driving, and then leaving that place, it'll be Chloe's turn for music. So we'll kind of have to work out a deal with her as far as that goes because she'll get a little antsy when it comes down to it, but she'll be fine. And then obviously games and like things to entertain. Snacks given, we already addressed that. So yeah, games and like toys. We do have this really good one. It's like almost like a tin box and it's pretty compact and it just opens up, it folds open and it's magnetic like tile shapes.
Yeah.
And so they literally just stick to the tin and she's been obsessed with that even at home. So kind of like your snack idea, maybe hide away toys that you think are perfect for the road trip or even the plane and kind of save them and like out of sight, out of mind, hopefully. And then, whip them back out. Or another thing that I've done in the past is like, I mean, new or like refreshed is better, right? To keep them entertained and excited. But it doesn't have to be brand new. It's not like you have to go on a shopping spree, but like go to a used kids store or something like that, like kid to kid down the street from us, So even just getting toys that are already have had some love and just like that's still new to them. They know absolutely no difference and it's cheaper and obviously less like consumption for the world. So yeah, anyways, I think that's another good tip of just like having something else that's like pull out of your bag of magic tricks, your Mary Poppins bag of like new stuff when you need it. So I think that's a really good one to have.
I love that. I think something else I wanted to add in is if you're going on like a big road trip from like Phoenix to California or whatever that looks like, try to like find stops that also have a playground nearby and kind of call it like picnic style. And so something we try to do is grab some food and then end up at a park and have 15 minutes of time at the park while mom and dad are eating. She gets to play or Cooper gets to play or whoever's playing. And then like you kind of get a little bit of the energy out. We've had our foods, our bellies are full, and then we get back in the car and then again another opportunity to then go take a nap or to then like wind down. I know sometimes parks are hard for kids to leave, or it might cause like a trigger of like, oh, I don't want to go get back in the car. So I do think you should read your kid and understand how they are. But I think that's one of my favorite parts about traveling is actually finding these new places for kids to go. And anytime like so far on our next trip, I've got 7 parks bookmarked on my Google Maps that in the areas that we're going that I want to take Cooper to explore and whatever. And I really try to hold my word. If I say like, if you do this, we're going to go to the park. And so like we have a pretty good rapport of like, if you do this, I'll do that. Or like, again, it's not a bribery thing. It's like, okay, well, after your nap, we'll go to the park. And I try to always follow through on that. Or after this big plane ride, let's try to do this. And so I think it's important to also like learn what your kid likes to do. And if you're able to incorporate a 30-minute, 15-minute park ride and it doesn't disrupt your whole day, try to reward them with that great behavior on the plane or in the car, or like, okay, after the park, we're going to go back in the car. All right, deal. Or kind of like try to negotiate with them in that way. Because again, you're trying to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. You have your food and then you play, or like you're trying to get all those sillies out. They're getting stir crazy. Find a playground. Everyone gets out of the car. Cars or planes are tense situations. Try to like reward some of that, get those sillies out, and then hop back in the car and continue on.
Yeah, especially in the toddler like stage. Oof, they got a lot of energy they have to get out. So I think that's the perfect like plan and like thinking ahead, right? Like literally mapping it out and like even having a couple of options up your sleeve. So that would be ideal. And then like another tip of road trips that I've had at least, and I don't know if you guys do the same, but like Ben and I mostly I'll sit in the back while Ben drives. Just that works a little better for us, and I'm usually in higher demand. So but sometimes we'll switch off, but it's always nice. Like, and that's not the whole road trip. Like, let's say it's a long road trip. It won't be the whole way that we're sitting there, but for maybe part of it, especially if there's a stop to break it up. I might hop in the back seat with her, whatever it is. So I think that's also nice rather than being like, Chloe, like, I can't reach that. Sorry. And she's crying, yelling for something that fell out of the car seat. So I think that that's, if it works for you guys and that's an option, I highly recommend doing that and switching off. And then in this case, we're about to go camping. So we'll have our dog with us, Cabo. So Cabo might be sitting in the front passenger seat while maybe I'm in the back seat with Chloe. So yeah, there's just ways to work around it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that tip a lot. That's a good one. It's interesting just to like kind of see how other people do things and just like really absorb those tips on, because that's certain things that, I might get car sick, but Chase doesn't, or, who's in demand. And it doesn't take too long to hop in the back seat and play with them a bit more and give them that attention. Because I think most of the time kids are just wanting the attention. We ask them to sit still for 5 hours, 7 hours, 2 hours. And like that's a lot for a little kid to sit and stop wiggling. So if you can get back there and play patty cake or do some things with them, that could completely change the dynamic within the car.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I think those are all really good tips for like road trips and plane and all that good stuff. I have some up my sleeve for like camping, just to like sprinkle some in. It's just like, also having them feel clued in, especially with Chloe. She's active. She's a 3-year-old, so she's very capable of being kind of with us and doing stuff. So like I literally just ordered her her own little headlamp, like toddler headlamp and stuff like that. And she has a camping set or kit that's like a play setup. So I'll probably bring some play toys like that, like play binoculars and just things that she can feel like she is a part of everything without having to actually have all the gadgets and stuff. So to keep her occupied, even though the outdoors is always refreshing and puts everyone in a good mood, I think she'll still want stuff. And then like chalk, like anything outdoors toys. And then we're still bringing our sound machines for nighttime. She has her own sleeping bag. So that'll be nice. We'll be sharing a mattress. So yeah, those are just little things like up my sleeve. And then actually for this camping trip, Nana and Papa, my in-laws, are going to be meeting us, kind of staggering their trips. So we'll have one shared night, but they're staying at a different location because they're bringing their big RV. But that's another tip of like, if that happens to be the case or an option, that'll be perfect for Chloe to nap in their RV because our camper does not really block out the sunlight. So I am already mentally anticipating her not napping for at least 1 or 2 days, but it's going to be what it's going to be. Or maybe we could drive somewhere, like drive to a little hike or drive to a lake, and that could be her nap. So maybe if she loves the car nap in a couple of days on the way up, maybe we could play around with that.
I'd love to see you pondering on that.
I know. Yeah. Okay. So fingers crossed that works out. And she loves that. So, okay. So we make it to our destination, right? Everything's good. Everyone survived. But then how do you kind of like ease into your destination, especially for you guys? You are always working against time zone change and all that. So how do you stay sane? How do you ease into your routine and help Cooper? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. So I think kind of for us, the rule of thumb is wherever you go, you jump right onto their time clock. So we take off from, fun fact, so we take out of Sydney at 11 a.m. and we land in Phoenix at 11 a.m. the same day, technically.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And so your body is telling you you're exhausted, you need to sleep. For adults, you're supposed to stay awake all the way until the normal sleep time at like 7 or 8 p.m. The goal is 8 p.m. to jump on that time clock. With a toddler or a baby, you can't really tell them what to do. And again, in theory, Cooper would take a nap at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, trying to get him onto the same, routine as normal. The hard thing is in waking him up. But I reckon you just need to like ease into it. Just try to like read your kids, try to stay within the window of time. And when I say our flights, these are a pretty big outlier, the fact that we're flying from here to there. So like even if we go from Phoenix to Pennsylvania to see Chase's mom for the week, we try to just like ease into that time frame. If he's wanting to go to bed at 4 p.m. because it's 8 p.m. in Pennsylvania, like trying to like understand and compromise, I think is really big. But just I've noticed he's a lot more like cuddly and silky, like when we're, in these big changes. So embracing that and just reading him. Try not to force him awake or force him to go to sleep too hard, because it's more of a mental battle and fight between the two of you. And like, again, so going from Arizona to Pennsylvania, that's a 4-hour time difference, right? So like 6 p.m. in Phoenix is 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. over there. And so trying to still like understand that like 10 p.m. it's actually 6 o'clock. So trying to like find that happy medium, but just understand that they don't understand the time difference. They just need to listen to their bodies. And so really focusing in on reading the kid you have, reading how I'm feeling, because I can communicate better than Cooper. He can say I'm sleepy and tired, but he doesn't understand like the exhaustion levels that is traveling across the world and then going to Iceland and all these different things. Like, we're going to be so out of whack. And thankfully, the three of us just stick together and sleep when you have to sleep, but try to get on the time zone if you're at as soon as possible. So then that way, the rest of the trip, you're not taking too much time sleeping and missing out the opportunities to be there.
Yeah, yeah. I know you guys are going to be bouncing around. Like you're not even, your body may be starting to get used to a time zone and then, whoop, just kidding. Like let's go travel halfway across the world again. Oh my gosh. I think for
I,
us, like, what?
I don't know how we're going to do it.
I don't know either. I think you'll literally survive, but it's just you're gonna have some rough patches and that's okay. That's just comes with the territory.
I mean,
But we're
even
gonna be
from,
here to get you through it.
I know. Thank God for that. Cheers to you. That and some more.
That's right. That's right. Yes, you're gonna be on adrenaline. It's gonna be great. I think for us, like, I just had a brain fart. Mom brain. What was I gonna say? What were you just talking about?
Um, Adjusting to time
Oh,
zones.
yes. Okay. I think for us, I really like to have a compromise of time zones. Like we haven't jumped too far. I mean, with Chloe, it's only been 3 hours so far of a difference. So we kind of like, at least the first day, we'll compromise a little bit, maybe like give or take an hour of like finding some middle ground essentially.
Yeah.
And then, but it's also all about circadian rhythm too. So it's like as much as you can expose them to the daylight, the sunlight while it's wake time. And then obviously like really gradually find that calm down space, like the really just dim lights and like no screens leading into it. I think like also the grace period and like just having grace with yourself and our kids of like easing into that routine too, of like giving a little bit of extra time to go into your routine. And maybe it won't take them the 20 minutes that it usually does for putting them down for nap time. Maybe give them 45 minutes just in case, just so you're not like rushing them and like they feel that energy. I think that's super important to like mindfully go into it and change your mindset. And also like not even just with their routines, but also like your whole schedule, because everyone's going to want to see you when you're here, like your first day of travel. And then like everyone's going to want to play with Cooper or Chloe, like whoever's like, wherever you're going, whoever you're traveling with, like try to pace yourself with like who you're seeing, what you're doing as best you can, depending on like, how many days you're going to be somewhere. So I think that's definitely key when going into something and like setting yourself up for success and like your energy levels, because sometimes you don't know how exactly exhausted you actually will be.
It's taking me back in time because when I flew back from Australia to America when I was 6 months pregnant, my family threw me a surprise welcome home party
Oh my
the
God.
day we landed. And I just remember being so emotional. Granted, I was pregnant, but it was just like overwhelming and it was a lot. We hadn't seen anyone for 2 years, the pandemic, we had our life, and then we're back into this. And it was so much. And I just remember going in the bathroom and crying and being like, this is just, I'm so exhausted. There's so many people trying to touch my belly and talk to me and ask me questions and big life stories. And I mean, I'm an adult and I was able to like process that in the bathroom by myself and quietly. Imagine being a 3-year-old where you're trying to figure it all out and people are touching you and you remember that person from the FaceTime call from a couple months ago, but you're not quite sure, but they know you, but they just don't understand. So really try to put yourself in your kids' shoes in those big moments of like travel and time and difference, and exhaustion is never in your favor with kids. And so giving that grace to be like, why is he acting this way? Okay, think he's tired, this, and this. That will give you a little bit more of understanding to not react big feelings in that moments, because that's where those big explosive issues happen.
Yes, 100%. Yes. So I think that's like really good validation and like good to hear. And for us to even just speak out loud to each other as we approach, very, very, very different ends of the spectrum of trips coming up for ourselves in the next week or so. So yeah, it's especially like, we're in summertime here in the US and you guys are in winter. And like, I know there's probably some winter breaks and stuff. So I think everyone has some travel coming up. Probably, I would imagine, whether it's a little road trip or a plane ride. And, each trip looks so different depending on the age of the kiddo and where you're at mentally and who's there to help you. Like, oh my God, you freaking traveled halfway across the world, just you and Cooper. Like, that is insane to me. So I think, like, take each trip for what it is and learn from it and know that there's only so much you can humanly do to like make sure everything goes smoothly. But I think the biggest part, and that I am breathing in for myself as well, is just like the mental part and the mental preparation of just like we were just talking about, giving myself grace, allowing the space and time for routines and just things and, you know, attitudes and behaviors to play out how they're going to play out. And yeah, kind of like also less pressure of like about the trip and logistics and everyone else. And also think of the big picture of it being like, this is an adventure, right? Not necessarily, ooh, this is vacation, all-inclusive resort. Let me just put my feet up. But it's still like, it's still work for us whenever we go traveling with kids. It's still like, you know, we're just parenting just in a different part of the world, you know, or like country. So I think that's also just things to keep in mind, like set your expectations, right? And that definitely helps.
Agreed. I love that. Thank you for saying that. I think my final thought is just remembering that anyone being rushed is where things go wrong. So give yourself enough time to get to the airport early. So if your child wants to push the cart, you're not rushing to security. Give yourself time to not feel rushed, because the rush is when those big fights happen, those big moments. And I just think like if you have 30 extra minutes to get to security, and Cooper wants to push the trolley to get there, instead of going, no, we have to hurry, hurry, hurry. If I'm tense, he gets tense. If I'm chill, yeah, of course you can push it. He'll get bored in 2 minutes and I'll end up pushing it. But giving yourself time and space to get to where you need to be, but realizing passing that one car on the highway is not going to get you that much further. Your safety is important, as well as like a 30-minute difference of getting there at 6 or 6:30 isn't going to change the direction of your trip. It's about your family dynamic, and you want to have your kids look back and remember these summer holidays or these big trips with joy, as opposed to going, oh, mom and dad never let me go to the bathroom on the road trip because we had to get there in time. Remember that they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. I mean, potty training and then putting them in the car for 2 hours, that's a different level. And so try not to get frustrated if they need to use the toilet 15 minutes in the road because they didn't realize they were going to have to hold their wee that long. So that's something that we're trying to be present with, is just trying to remember those things as we're going through the trip.
Totally. Love that. I had one more thought. I promise this is the last one, but like also thinking ahead of time for less packing. Cause I feel like we're adding to like, make sure you bring this, make sure you do this, make sure that, but also like think about things that you don't have to bring. What's going to lighten your load? Like wherever you're going, do you have family there? Maybe they know other people who aren't using their car seat anymore, that you could borrow a car seat or borrow a pack and play, or like, you know, don't pack all of your toys, have, borrow someone else's toys, you know, little things like that. High chair. So just all the big stuff that you don't have to bring, like, please let someone else like hook it up for you and like plan that a little bit more for you. Cause, even traveling back to the Bay Area in California, our other friends who have their other Chloe, their other girl, who is literally just like a week, older than our Chloe. So they've given us like a pack and play and car seat and like all this stuff to borrow each time that we've visited it. And it's come so in handy. And it's just like one big check we don't have to cross off our list for packing. So definitely look into that stuff as much as you possibly can for stuff you don't have to actually bring.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I feel so ready to conquer this trip.
Yeah, you got this. And we'll be waiting here for you on the other side.
I can't wait. Well, just in a week's time, I'll be giving you a big cuddle as we'll be there, and I can't wait to see you.
Yay. Okay, we'll hit the fast forward button here, and we'll catch you guys next time.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Mom Meets World. If you enjoyed listening, please give us a like, subscribe, and find us on Instagram at Mom Meets World Pod.
Because sometimes you just need another mom to remind you that you're getting it right more than you're getting it wrong. See you next time.